Yeah, you can start it, Arka.
Okay. So I've actually joined from two devices because I was facing some issue with the camera in my laptop.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead, just give a small intro about myself, and then we'll go ahead with the session. Just let me know if you can see me. I just turned on my camera.
Yes, it's
Okay, fine. Okay,
everyone.
guys.
1 minute, Arka. Everyone, you can turn on your cameras also. It will help us. We can see that how many happy spaces are there. Can turn
Hello,
on.
ma'am. Good morning.
And lovely to see number joining on a Sunday morning. Call from the expected day. Nice. Good that we see curious people.
So myself Ravindra from Lucknow, India.
আমি ঢুকাম এটি দোকান লাগতো না লাগাল
I think okay, so shall we go ahead and start the session?
Yes, Arka, you can start it.
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much everyone for joining. And after on a short this, so that's great. Hope everyone enjoyed yesterday's match. Yes. No.
Yeah. Harika, unmute from your side.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now.
Okay. So I was just asking if every one of you have enjoyed yesterday's match, because that's what we have postponed it for, right? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Great. So nice. First of all, I'll go ahead and just give a small intro about myself. So before to that, how many of you know me already?
I got your link from LinkedIn, ma'am.
Okay.
And I follow your YouTube channel, man.
You can raise your
I
hands
follow your
also.
YouTube channel.
That way also we can know about it. How many of
Or
you know
you
about
put it
Harika
in
about
chat.
before?
Know me, yes. You can say yes. I want this session to be as much interactive as possible, because it won't be good to have a one-way or one-sided session. That's what we are here for, right? Like live webinar. So we'll try to keep, yeah, great. I see a lot of numbers raising hands. Nice. Great. So for all of you who don't know me, I'll just give a small introduction about myself and then we can get into the session. Okay. So I'm Harika. I have overall, I think, close to 8 years of experience by now into RPA, UiPath, testing, a lot of streams. I've started my journey into IT. And right now I am working as a solutions architect in one of the product-based company. And this is my professional side. Apart from that, I love doing YouTube videos. Whenever I encounter a crazier situation, or if my team members, anyone, have some kind of query where they are struggling with, if I could, find them useful, I try to create a video on it and I put on my channel. So if you're already following my YouTube channel, you know about it already. And there are a lot of videos up on my channel, I think close to 250 by now. So I create videos on these kind of things, and apart from that, latest implementations and whatever is trending, right? So I have videos on UiPath, Robocop, ChatGPT, LLMs. So there are a lot of videos up on my channel. So I love doing YouTube, and apart from that, sessions like this, right? So interacting with people, helping them learn, and I also give trainings. So this is all about me. Maybe if you would love to, explore more about UiPath and all such things, you can just check out my channel. I'll drop the link in the comments or in the chat, so you can just check it out, and you can also reach out to me. I'll also drop my LinkedIn profile. You can reach out to me if you have any questions or any career guidance, because I'm someone who have, traversed my career through different profiles. So I was into support, I was into testing, and then I was into development, and now into the solution architect role. So it's quite a big journey, right? So I know people who wants to start their career as a fresher, right, into UiPath. So I can guide you on that front. Or if you are someone who wants to, move from testing to development, or development to, a lead role. So I can help you with small things that I have encountered, which I know that worked for me. Maybe I can help you with all such things. You can also give it a try, and I'm grateful if it can help you. So yes, that's all about me. Before I start the session, I have two disclaimers. So the first thing is, I want every one of you to open your studio and keep it open, maybe a process, so that, whenever I tell you something, we can parallelly start doing it, so that you can get the hands-on also. And by end of the session, you will have some confidence that you have, learned something. Because after all, we joined on a Sunday, we have to keep it as productive as possible, right? So that's what the agenda is. And the second disclaimer is, I'm not feeling well, so sometimes maybe I would ask you, or you have to spare with my bad throat, right? So so I would ask you that also from my side. So let's get into the video. So before to that, anyone have any questions or anything from your side? Just give a minute, and by the time I'll switch off my camera and I'll join from the another device, so we can start the session. Meanwhile, if someone has anything, they can put up in the chat. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, madam.
Okay. I will share my screen. Okay. So I've given my intro already. Let's go ahead with the PPT. Okay. I hope everyone opened their studio and kept it open for hands-on, right? Yes. I want more interactions. I love to interact with you guys, because if at all it's about learning only API automation, it's already there up on my channel. But here we are today to keep it more interactive. Okay. Yes. Fine. Okay, so first of all, let's start with UI and API automations. Okay, so we already, as if you're already a UiPath developer, the first thing that you would be start automating on is using any UIs, right? So maybe any web application, or it can be desktop application. Most of the time, we tend to start or learn using UI automations, right? So we'll try to bring out a difference, or what is the difference between UI automation and API automation, how they would differ, and why we have to opt for API automation, right? So let's try to understand the difference first, and then we will go ahead for exploring more in detail about API automation. Okay, so first of all, if I have understand from you, how many of you have already has knowledge on UI automation, or have done some automations already?
Little bit in knowledge about this,
Mm-hmm.
like selector, all that getting data.
Exactly. Okay, great. So basically, when you're doing UI automation, you have to make sure that the process is a foreground process. That means whenever you're doing the automation, whenever you're running the process, you interact with something called as selectors, right? So that is the main area, right? Whenever you're actually working with the automation, that you, let's say a small example, I'm going to take a small example. If you wanted to fetch a particular value, or if you wanted to scrape a particular text from an application,
First, you have to open the application. You have to keep it interactive with your robot. Only then you can fetch the values from that particular application, right? So that is UI automation. You have to interact with the elements that are there on the application, which is a foreground process. But when I say API automation, it's completely background process, right? So you don't have to see or anything that's running on your machine. It goes, there will be an API. It try to fetch the information from the API and give you the result, right? So that's how you can actually do the API automation. So what difference it makes? So let's say you have UI automation. So someone, Ravindra, I guess. So he replied that there will be some concept called as selectors, correct? You interact with the selectors. So let's say at a point of time, if the selector is not available or if the application is slow, right? If the application is not responding, then in that case, or if the UI of that particular application has changed. So most of the time we encounter this scenarios, right? Whenever we are doing UI automation, any slightest difference in the application also will let you break the automation, right? So these are the downsides of UI automation. But in case of API automation, we will have that edge that it doesn't bother whether the UI of the application changes or not, right? So it interacts and gets the response from the background. So that's the beauty of API automation. And it will be very much fast when compared to UI automation. If you wanted to fetch some data, you have to log in into application, you have to go to certain screen, traverse through different screens, and then fetch the data, put it up in some Excel, and you have to show. But if at all you're doing an API calls, it is a single call that will fetch you this information, right? Even the authentication, like whatever the login you are providing using UI automation, that will be done in the background itself. So if I compare both of them together, UI automation is prone more to these kind of issues, and it's less speed when compared to API automation. Okay, so the error probability of UI automation is more when it comes to API automation, right? So this is how you can differentiate these both. And let's say if I quickly have to give a small example to you, okay, let me. So how many of you guys know about Postman here? Have you used Postman ever before? Yes, no?
Yes, Harika.
Yes, great. So Postman is something that we use for testing APIs. Okay. Let me quickly give you one small example. Okay. So if you see here, I have an API. Okay. So I'll talk about all of them in detail as well as we go ahead with the session, but just for you to make you understand how this actually differentiate. So if you see here, I'm having an API. Okay. So I'm making a get call. That means it's going to fetch me the data, right? It's going to fetch the temperature in degree centigrade from the location Hyderabad. So I'm just doing a call. So I'm just doing a call by clicking on send. Okay. So if you see here, the temperature says as 31 degrees, right? But if at all, if I wanted to fetch this manually, so how can I do that? What is the temperature of Hyderabad right now? So I have to go to Google or search somewhere on in a particular site where I wanted to fetch the information. And what you actually do in UI automation, you go to this site, right? You fetch, you search, and then you have to retrieve this data. Exactly, right? You have to fetch this information, which is 31 degrees centigrade. And the same thing how I have done here. If you see here, the result is same. It's 31, and here also it's 31. But I have done it through an API call. There is no need of going into any site or any application or typing anything. No need of any interactions with UI. All these actions happen in the background, right? So you don't know from which site it has fetched, what information it has fetched, but you know the response. All you want is the response, right? Is this clear? How we are differentiating between UI and API? The end result is same, whether it's you're getting from UI or whether you're getting from API. The end result would be same, but here it will be done without touching any website or without going into any of the application. Clear? Yes?
Yes, Sarika.
Okay, great. So, how many of you already have knowledge on APIs? Like any basic knowledge on API?
I know basic knowledge about
Yeah,
API.
basic
I
knowledge in
know
API.
also very.
Nice. So first of all, what I will do is we will go step by step. Okay, we will understand what, because see, whenever you are working with APIs, there are a lot of things that that will be involved. Whether it can be different terminologies, or it can be different types of outputs, or different types of methods or statuses, right? So all of the different things that you have to have a knowledge on, right? So if at all any of the thing is missing, it will be incomplete. Maybe we cannot say that we are fully equipped with the knowledge on API. So what I do is, let's go step by step. Let's understand the whole terminologies and the basic ideas about API before we actually jump into the automation, because once after we know this, it will be a piece of cake that we can implement using automation. Okay, so that's the whole idea. So I'll keep this as as basic as possible to keep it understandable to everyone. Okay, because I see people joining from different categories, like whether they can be a developer or fresher or just curious to learn about UiPath, right? So I'll try to keep it as simple as possible so that everyone can understand without any hustle. Okay, so firstly, to make you understand what is an API, I don't wanted to own the rights for this picture, because this is something I have seen in LinkedIn, and I thought it will be useful for you guys to understand easily what is an API. Okay, so we already talk a lot of business terminologies when it comes to definitions, right? But to keep it as minimal as and as simple as possible, this is the picture that I saw somewhere in LinkedIn, and I thought I'll keep this handy when I start this session. Okay, so first of all, let's understand what is an API's acronym. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. So what is mean by interface? So it can be a medium, or it can be something that helps two sources to communicate, right? So what are the two sources here? So from this picture, if you see, there are two different things. Okay, one is backend and another one is front end. So when it comes to IT admin, we talk a lot about backend and front end, right? But here, when it comes to APIs, so what is the backend? So let's consider you go to a restaurant. Okay, so let's consider this is the restaurant. So whenever you go into the restaurant, what all you can see? The nice ambience, you can see menu cards, you can see tables, you can see the ordering system, right? You can see all of that. So that is the front end. Okay, and what you cannot see, this one, back end, right? You cannot see what's happening in the food preparation, what goes into food preparation, what is how they're cooking, dishwashing, kitchen, all these things are the back end. Okay, and now let's come to API. So what does the APIs do here? In order to enable the communication between front end and back end, right? You give an order to the waiter, right? And the waiter will communicate the order to the back end. Correct? So who will do this communication? This waiter, right? So these waiters are the APIs. They act as APIs. They will communicate the information. That means whatever the order you give them, they will communicate that to the backend. So what happens in the backend? As per your order, the meals or the food gets prepared in the backend, and that will be served back to you. Correct? So that is the job of API. So who gets that food back to you? Again, the waiter. So what is the role of a waiter here? They will communicate whatever the information you have given them like whatever the food you need, how you need, all that to the backend. So backend prepares the food, and that food will be again fetched to you by waiter. So the waiter does the function of an API. That means whatever the communication that happens between front end and back end, and again back end and front end, is done by using an interface which is called as an API. Okay, the same thing that we keep it in a technical terminology. Okay, so if I have to put it in technical terminology, let me take a word. Or else I'm gonna take something here. Okay. So let's put up a okay. So what does an API actually does here is, it's clear, right? When you have seen in the front end and back end, that is clear. But here in the IT terminology, how this actually differs is, API does the action, right? It takes your request. I mean, if you're in a hotel, the waiter take your request and he will give it in the kitchen, and again he'll take food from the kitchen, which is the response, right? And he will give it back to you, right? In the same way, here we have in IT, we have application and server. Okay, this is the front end we are talking about, and this is the back end. So what our API will do, what the waiter will do, they will take the information, right? They will take the information, they will okay, they will take the request from the application and they will give it to the server. Okay, and the server will work on your request, whatever your request can be. So for that case, in the Postman, what I have asked, I asked what is the temperature of Hyderabad in degree centigrade, right? I have asked this question. So to the server, this has been sent to the server, and the server has worked on my request, and it has provided the response for me in the temperature. I could see a lot of background noise. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, fine. Thank you. So that's what it happened. In the same way, from the if you have to relate what we have seen, front end and back end, application is a front end, okay, and server is a back end. You don't know what's happening in the back end. Similarly, when I asked for the temperature in Hyderabad, I don't know from which site it has fetched, where it has fetched, and all. I don't have any idea. But what I can see is the response. Clear? So what is the response? That server will send back to the application, right? So let's draw that as well. Okay. So here we are getting response. So what is the request? Request means that we are giving to the application. So this, whatever the API that takes the request from the application and sends to the server, it will work on the request and gives back the response. So who are doing all of these things? An API. Okay, because API is the interface. API is the interface that help us to communicate between the server and the application. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so this is the API which will take the request from application, sends to the server, and in the server, as per the request, it will be fetching all the details and it will give the response back to the application. So that's how the API acts as an interface or a communication channel between the application and the server, and it will communicate through request and the response. Okay, clear? This concept is clear, or you want me to revise this again? Because this is the most important concept, because whatever we are going through and seeing the next bits will be depending on these terminologies: application, server, request, response, APIs, front end, back end, all of this. So is this clear for all of you? Yes? No?
Yes, Sarika.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have the chat enabled for you guys? Yes? No? Can we have a quick quiz session? Okay.
Yeah.
Would be interested? Nice. So there won't be any prizes, but it's just about to keep it as interactive as possible. Okay. So what is the acronym of API? Acronym of API.
Application Programming Interface.
Great, great. Nice. But yeah, you can unmute and tell also, but it would be a lot of difficult for all of you to unmute. Maybe you can put it up in the chat. Okay. Out of UI and API automations, which one is more speed and more accurate?
API.
API.
Okay,
API.
great, great. So API acts as an interface between which two mediums?
Application
Application and server.
Great, great. Guys, maybe I am loving that you guys are unmuting and telling, but if you put it in the chat, I can see your names as well, because I see a lot of people responding, but I don't know who you are, right? But if you put here, I can see your name, and it will be helpful for me also to identify you. Okay, great, great, great. Yeah. So, so what is the thing that that will be taken to the server, or what is that particular terminology we use? That request, correct, Kumar, Tejaswini, Shiva, Sandhya. Nice, nice, great. And what is that it will give you as an output from the server? Response. Great,
Response.
great, nice. So this is all about the basic understanding of what is API is. And now let's get into the other parts of it, right? So we have different types of APIs as well. Right, so what are the different types of APIs? So let's say you're working with database. We have database APIs which are specific only to do requests for database and to get the response from database very efficiently. And we have operating system APIs, and we have web APIs. Web API is something that I've shown you just now, right? So it went into an application, it has fetched me the data or the the temperature of that particular location. So these are the web APIs. So today we are going to see mostly about web API, because our whole interest and area of concentration is web API. So in web API also we have different types of APIs again. We have SOAP APIs, we have REST APIs, right? So what is a SOAP API? What is a REST API? What are the features of them? Why we have to use certain things, and when we have to choose them? So all of these things we will be talking about when we talk about different types of APIs. Okay, so when I say about SOAP, okay, I'll put them over here. Where is it? Okay. So when I say about SOAP API, when I say about SOAP API is something simple object access protocol. Okay, it's a acronym of SOAP API. Okay, I'll just put over here. If any one of you are, attending an interview, then definitely you cannot miss these kind of questions, because we never know what kind of questions comes on. If we tell that we know about APIs, correct? So it's important to keep these things in mind. Simple Object Access Protocol. Okay, and the other one is REST API. So if I quickly talk about the differences between SOAP API and REST API, so basically SOAP API is limited with respect to the outputs. Okay, so what I mean by output is, let me go to Postman. So if you see here, this is a REST API. Okay, the output format of this is JSON. Okay, so if at all you don't know what is JSON and what is XML, I'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so the output of this is in a JSON format. Okay, and this is a REST API. This REST API's output, you can get in different formats as well, not only in JSON. You can also get it in XML, you can get it in CSV. So like that, you have the flexibility, okay, to get the output in a different format if you are going for the REST API. But what happens with SOAP API is it has a limited bandwidth towards outputs. So it can provide you output only in XML format. Okay, so I have acquired some examples of how an XML looks like, how a JSON looks like, how complex they are, all of this. Okay, so if you see here, the format that I'm showing on screen is the XML format. The same XML format, if you put it in JSON, it would be something like this, right? So this how simple this is. This is the same information you have: John, Anna, and Peter. John, Anna, and Peter, right? So this is done in 3 lines of information about 3 different people. But if you see here, there are multiple lines, multiple tags, and all of that. So the complexity, if you observe between XML and the JSON, even for the same output, you have to go through a different context in the XML, but in JSON, it's quite simple and easy, right? So which one you feel simple from your side, XML or JSON? Look wise, which is simple? JSON, right? So
JSON.
yes, exactly. So that's where the preference towards REST API has come in. Then you might have asked a question to me like, then what is the need of SOAP API if at all we are going to use only, because this REST API also provides XML output, correct? Also provides XML, also provides JSON and CSV. Then what is the need of SOAP API? If no one is using and no need of it, right? If it's only providing output in XML. There is also one benefit that it has, one edge that it has when compared to REST API, that is security. Okay, so the way SOAP APIs are binded, the way they are restrictive and secured is way different than REST API. Okay, the way you have to access it is also difficult, I say. But yeah, when it comes to security and governance, this SOAP API gives the best with respect to when you compare it with REST API. So if at all it depends, right? So for you in one project, if you wanted to fetch something easily without any, if the information is fine to keep it public also, that's fine. Then you can go simply for REST API. But if you think that the information is confidential, if you wanted to keep it secure, then you can go for the SOAP API, right? Because it provides the output in XML. This is also fetchable, but complexity wise, if you see JSON and XML is a bit more complex and it's so much lengthy. The same information, if you wanted to see it in XML, it's so much lengthy, right? So that's the differences between SOAP and the REST API. And so fine. So now before we actually goes into, so the next part is demo that I wanted to show you. Before we actually go into the demo, I would like to show you one small website where you can utilize it for your, you can give some hands-on and you can try to utilize the APIs for free, because not all the APIs you can get it for free to do some hands-on, right? So you can utilize this particular website. So it's request.in, which is request response. Okay, these are public APIs. Okay, so if you go to this particular request.in, I'll put this in the chat. Maybe you guys can save it. So this particular website will be helpful for you to understand. Okay, so this will be, sorry, this will be helpful for you to utilize all these requests. So I'll be shortly talking about what are these different methods and why we use them and what are the different responses that we get out of them and all of this. So if you see here, we have get, post, put, patch, delete, all of that. And what is the purpose of all these different types of methods, right? So if you see here, this get method. So get method is basically used to fetch the information. The name itself says, right? Get. It is used to fetch the information. That means if you do a API call for this, right? If you do a API call, it will fetch you all this information. If you do a post request, it will create, right? If you do a post request, it will be doing this as the response. This is the input and this is the output. We will see all of them in the UiPath studio as well. Okay, shortly we will see that. But I'll just wanted to give you some theoretical idea of what this is. Because if you understand what happens in the theory, it will be easy to apply there, correct? So if you see here, we have a post request which is used to create. So what is created here? Maybe a position, right? So the name is Morpheus and the job is leader. A position is created with a ID, correct? So let's say if you're doing an employee onboarding, correct? Any HR will do the employee onboarding. Then they're just gonna do a particular API call with the name of the employee and what is the position of them and the location, maybe if it's needed. So this particular response or the particular position is created, correct? And if you wanted to delete something, then you can delete by using the delete API call. If you're doing a registration, right? So all these are the different API calls, right? Mostly we will use get and the post or delete if at all it's needed in some cases. Okay, or if you wanted to update, you will go for the put request or patch request based on the need. Okay, so these are the different API methods. Okay, HTTP methods, these are. Okay, so whenever we are doing a call, we do a call using HTTP request, right? I'm talking about request multiple times. I'm telling that there is a request. So what is that request? It's a HTTP request. Whenever we're doing an API call, we do a HTTP request. So this HTTP methods, right? If you see here, there are multiple HTTP methods. So what are they? Get, post, put, delete, patch. All of these are the different HTTP methods. So these are defined based on how an API is built, right? So if you see here, I'm just using this particular API call. I'm not sending any data, correct? I'm not sending any data. It is a simple call I'm doing. And this is fetching me this information. But if you see here in the Postman that I have shown you earlier, I have to send some information here. That means every API is built differently. Some APIs need input from the user to process. Some will be plain APIs. If you just do a call, it will be working, correct? So that is how it will be. It completely depends upon the design of the API. Okay, so firstly, what I'll do is I'll just give a small demo. Okay, so we will just go to studio. You can also do it parallelly with me. I'll just give a small demo on. Okay, how many of you are familiar with RPA challenge site? How many of you are familiar with RPA challenge? Only 5 hands raised. Nice. So many of you know. Okay, so let's take that site. Have you ever downloaded this particular Excel from here? From here, if you download, there will come an Excel with first name, last name, address, role, company, phone number, email, right? Which we will take and we will loop through to write the data here dynamically, correct? So we might have done it manually or through UI automation. So today now what I will do, I will show you how you can get this through an API. Okay, how you can download this file through an API. API call. Okay, so before we actually go into the demo, first and the foremost thing, if you're giving it a try, as I mentioned you parallelly, okay, first you need to have this package installed in your studio, web api.activities, because this this package will only have the activities that will support you to do the API automation. You should have this installed in your machine. Okay. Next, so for doing this thing, I'm going to take a HTTP request, pull this into your studio. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I am going to do a API call. So I'll tell you step by step for the first example, so you can also try to do it from your side. So once after I finish up this example, I'll give you 2 minutes for all of you to recreate this whole thing. Okay, so that you can also understand how simply we can download without even going into the browser at all. Okay, nice. So firstly, I wanted to download this particular Excel. So how can I do that? Either I should have a particular URL that I pointed to, or I have to go to this particular application and do the UI automation. So now as we are concerned about APIs, so I'm just right clicking, copy link address. Okay. Go to your HTTP request, click on configure. Okay. Here you have something called as endpoint. Okay, endpoint is nothing but the URL. Okay, this URL, if you see here, what did I do it in the Postman? This is a URL, right? The same thing. This URL will help. It will be like a request. Okay, this URL will take the request to the server. Okay, so now I am putting my URL over here, which I have copied from there. HTTP rpachallenge.com access download file challenge.xlsx. Okay, so that particular URL is something that I'm utilizing to send the request to the server. Got it? Done. Then we can do a preview. So what we can understand from the preview is the status code, right? So what we are trying to do by using this particular URL, request URL, as I mentioned, this particular request URL will fetch me the Excel file, correct? Will give me the Excel file. So that's why the method is get, and the status code is 200. 200 means success, right? I've shown you in the request. 200 response means success. Okay, nice. So, okay, done. So you also have to provide one file name response. Okay, the file name for the response. So we can just put it up as, what is the output file name you wanted to take it into? Student db.xlsx. Okay, student db.xlsx. So once after I download the file, it will be saved with this particular name in my local. Okay, just save. And what I also will do is here in the, if you see here in the output, we have something called as response status. So when the status, when this particular thing will become success, what should be the status? What should be the status? If the status is 200, only then that means it's a successful response. Okay, let's debug this. And before to that, I'll just delete the Excel files that I have in my project. Okay, perfect. Let's debug this and see if we can download the file without even going into the application itself. Done. If you see, it didn't even take a second, right? 0 seconds. It didn't even open the application. So let's assume if you're doing the same thing with UI automation, how much time it will take? It will open the application. It has to wait until the page gets loaded properly. It has to see the particular Excel. It has to click on it. It downloads. So you have to take that particular file, move to the project location, right? So a lot of things you have to considerate about when you're doing the UI automation. And that will also take so much of time, and that will not work if the application is not up, or if its UI is not set, if the resolution is not proper, right? There are a lot of issues. But if you see here, it has done in a second. So let's go to the project folder and see if we can have that particular Excel saved. So studentdb.xlsx. Right? We got all the information as it is. Perfect. Did you see the difference between UI and API automation?
Yes, Harika.
Yes.
Yeah.
So nice. Would you guys wanted to give a try? Like I'll give 5 minutes to try this, or you want me to take to the next concept? Yes, no? You can put up in the chat. You want to give a try, or you want me to take me to the next concept? Try? Okay. Yeah, I'll give 5 minutes. URL. Okay, you want the URL. Why I'm not able to see? Where is this chat? Okay. So someone wants to try, someone wants to go for next concept. Okay, well, considering the time, I'll give some 2 minutes. If at all it's possible, you can give a try. Otherwise, we'll go to the next concept.
Yeah, Harika, hi.
Yeah,
Actually, we
hi.
have the download file activity, right, for this.
Yes, we
It
have
will
the
be
download
same.
file, but if how you can do the download file is different, right? So you have to download, and after that also you have to wait until it is something related to API itself again. Whatever you're doing here is integrated there, right? So if you're doing API through HTTP request, that means you're integrating the URL here, but the download file activity itself is integrated backend. In the backend, it's also an API. So the whole point here is, if you're doing an API automation, this is a difference that I wanted to showcase, like how you are doing the API activities for the downloading, and how you can achieve the same thing by using UI. Correct? So it's not about the download alone, it's about different things. So let's say if you're doing a request where it goes into an application, it do traversing between different screens, and if you have to scrape that particular, let's say if you're worked with Salesforce anytime, so in the Salesforce, what we usually suggest or recommend is, instead of going with the UI automation, we suggest going for API automation, because Salesforce itself is a huge application which loads very slowly, and also it's prone to so much of application exceptions if you're trying to scrape the data, because you have to scroll the page to go to the next elements or the bottom of the page, and there are chances that we miss out some data. But if you're going for the API automation, it's just a small API call which does the authentication, right? And it will fetch you the whole information. Yeah, as you mentioned, we can also use the download file, but the whole point here is the way that we are looking at it, right? When you're using UI automation and API automation, how differently it works. Correct. So if you're doing the UI automation, this will take a lot of time. And if you're doing the same thing with API automation, it's more accurate. It's speed, right? It's also give you the enough information without opening the application itself, right? So that's the whole agenda of API automation. And also, yeah, we can not only about the downloading, this is one small example to just showcase the difference between UI and API. Not only that part, we can also create a lot of requests, we can fetch a lot of data, we can also delete some information using API calls. So there are a lot of things that you can actually work around using APIs. And also the recent release, I think 23.10 release has a separate activity for downloading itself, which you can try to put the URL and it will fetch you the output. Again, so how it works, the backend is API, right? Got it?
Yeah, got it.
I don't know who have asked the question, but yeah, the background is API itself. If you have an activity that's doing something which you're not, which is not taking into UI, means the backend is integrated with APIs. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, nice. So let's get into the next concept. So as I have shown you here, requests, here we have get request, right? So let's get and see what this get request can do, how this can actually fetch the data for us, all of that, okay? Let's create a more sequence. And here again, I'm using the same HTTP request. Okay, I'm configuring. So the same thing. So what is the request URL here? What is the HTTP request that we are doing? This one. Okay, so copy this whole URL. So this is one small example I'm showing you because these are public APIs. Everyone can access them. And if at all you wanted to customize this as per your project or as per your need, you can do it in the same way. Okay, unless until an authentication is needed. Okay, so these are the public APIs. We don't need the authentication for them. But let's say if you're doing the API calls for something where you have to authenticate. For that, we have a different procedure, not completely different, but a quite different procedure. So let's say if you're doing an API call for orchestrator to pull the information for the jobs or to start a job to get the queue information, right? Processes information. So you can also do that, but that is a little bit complex. So as we're trying to focus more on the basics, so this is the public API call that I wanted to show you in this demo. Okay, but if at all you are interested to learn like how you can do that and all, you can let Edkonlu know about it. So we'll try to plan for another session where we can talk about advanced API automation as well. Or if you are interested, there are already a lot of videos up on my channel, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, right? So you can explore from them as well. So I'll just quickly give you an idea of from where you can get those videos on my channel, because if any one of you don't know about my channel already, you can go, it's on my name itself, Harika Muriam. So in the playlist, you can go to playlist. Here there are a lot of playlists actually. So here if you go starting from here, right? API automation, this talks about all basics, deserializing. Like if you fetch the output, I'll show you shortly. If you run an API, you will get the output in JSON format. But how do you utilize the JSON format is also important, right? Because you cannot get the ready-made output or tailored output for you. You have to deserialize it to utilize as per your need, right? So how you can deserialize that, and what are the different activities that we have for deserializing, so all of them I talk in this video. So it's a small video, you can learn about complete API automation in just 1 hour. So this is the video, just have 40 minutes of it, you can go through and learn about that as well. And as I told about orchestrator APIs, so if you see here, there are 15 videos here: orchestrator API, Postman, orchestrator API, HTTP request. So these are the different videos. I'll also put these links in the chat so you guys can keep them handy and learn. I don't know why this is going to a particular person.
Yeah, and bottom we have the everyone. Choose it.
Yeah, I have changed, but it's suddenly going to a specific person.
Yes,
I
yes,
don't know.
yes, yes.
Okay, so yeah, you can learn from there. But again, as I mentioned you in the beginning of the session, I would love to have a lot of interactive sessions. So based on your, input, if at all you wanted to have an advanced session on API as well, we'll try to keep that as possible in near future. So you can reach out to Ed Kundal and you can let him know your interest on learning these concepts. So based on how much interest that we get from you, we will try to plan accordingly. Okay, but at all for other people who wants to learn, maybe want to check out a new concepts or something, this channel, I mean this playlist you can refer to. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel because there are a lot of videos already coming up. Yes, great. Having said that, let's go back to our studio and we'll implement this. So yeah. I'm taking this particular request. Okay, so if you go over here, let's try to put this up here, and this is a get request, so I'm keeping it as it is as get, and go for a preview. So if you see here, the response code is 200 and it's a get request. And if you see the preview response, initially when we are doing the download, it didn't come because it's an Excel. It didn't try to format it in this screen. But if you see here, the preview response has all the information exactly as we can see over here, right? This is exact match, right? Perfect. So this will come as expected. So can anyone quickly tell me what is the response for success? The status code for success?
200.
Yeah. If it's unsuccess,
400.
400.
sure.
Yes.
If it's no, 400 is right. I was just checking your confidence. Okay. So if you're creating something, what will be the response code? I said you will use post request for creation, right? So what will be the response for creation?
201.
Sorry?
201.
No. 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 401. I think you're confused between 201 and 401. It's a 401. Okay. And yeah, let's go ahead and see the output of this. Okay. So if you see here, it has passed through HTTP request. And if you see here, I'll just try to see what is the output of this. So what is the output? And if you have seen this, I've already given one output variable. Response content has an output variable, which is str content. Okay. So that variable I am going to fetch from here. So before to that, I'll just check the response as well, if it's 200 or not. So if you see, it's 200. Perfect. And what is the output that we are getting from there? str content. So this is the content. So this is also right. Correct. And now what I'm going to do is, this is for get. Okay, this is for getting the response. But how you can do the posting, right? The same way. Can someone guide me how to do this? Maybe you can unmute yourself and you can tell me what I have to do. Can you tell me that? How you can do the post request? Can someone tell me what activity to pull? How to do the post request? So let's say I have request. Okay. Here my post request is there. So it's clear that I have to use this particular API call. This is the API that I should use. Okay. Can someone tell me how can I do the API call for post? Similar, what we have done for get.
HTTP post we can take.
So correct, HTTP request. Then click on configure. So I have to provide the endpoint. So what is the endpoint? This one. This one. Okay. I'm copying the endpoint, putting over here in double quotes. Okay.
Select request type post.
Request method post. Exactly. Correct. Then
And accept then add parameters.
okay, great. So here if you see, for get method, we don't have any parameters, right? It's a plain request. We have sent and we will get the response. But for the post, we have the parameters, right? So along with the URL, you have to make sure that you give the parameters. So what are the parameters? How you'll give the parameters is something quite simple. So if you see here, the name, I'm copying the name. Okay. Click on parameters, add parameter, and here I'm providing the name. And provide whatever the value you want in double quotes. Okay, so let's say I'll create my own name. And what is the another parameter it needs? Job. So I'll give job and Okay. So why we are providing this parameter is because, as I told you in the first example, that when I am running this particular API call, when I'm requesting the postman that I wanted to fetch the temperature of Hyderabad, it needs certain input, which is location as input. In the same way, here it needs the name and the job in order to create the user, right? We are trying to create the user. That means we are trying to post the request in the server, right? So it will create the position for the user in the server, and it will give you the ID as the output. Okay, so let's preview this. And here we can see 201 is the status code that for the creation. Okay. I think someone told this. Maybe I confused them. Okay, sorry for that.
Yes.
So sorry for that. So 201 is the status code for the creation. Okay, so the ID that got created is 46, right? So if you see here, the position of that particular user has created in the server, right? The position is created and the ID is generated. So let's try to select this. Now what we have to provide here, first thing is the status, because the status is something that will let us know whether it is a successful or not, successful creation or not. And the other one is the output, right? str content. Perfect. Nice. Now let's go and take the output here. Let's debug this and see what we get as an output. Nice. We've got the output here. So if you see here, the output that it has generated is in the JSON format, right? The output of this is in the JSON format. But if you wanted to fetch only the ID, whatever the ID that gets generated, which is 722, as I already mentioned you, this is a huge concept. Like, you know, the JSONs can be in different format. This is a normal JSON. If you see here, this is a normal JSON. But if you see here, the get response, this is an array. So how can I say this is an array? If you see here, this is an array. Data is an array that has 1, 2, 3, right? So many items are there inside that particular data. So
Under
first
square
we
bracket.
have to, exactly. So the square bracket says this is an array of different items that are there inside this particular data, right? So firstly, to understand how we can utilize them or how we can format them, it's also equally important to understand what are the different formats that come as output. Yes or no? Right? If you know what is coming as output, then only we can try to format it accordingly. So as I already, again, coming back to the original point, it's a huge topic again. So we have to, you know, first understand what are the different types of JSON formats. Okay, and based on the different types of format, we will deserialize them as per the need, right? So it will be something like, let me show you this video. So if you see, this is the video that talks about different formats of JSON. So I have clearly explained in this video how to fetch the values from JSON using deserialized JSON and deserialized JSON array, because we have two types of formats in the JSON itself. One is normal format of JSON and the other one is a array format of JSON, right? So for that we have two different activities. First, we should know how the format is, which one to use, and how to deserialize it. So everything I have explained here in this 40-minute video, and if you wanted to curious to learn, then this video is definitely going to give you all the understanding about it, and you can apply it in the different, types of output as well, because going forward you will have only these two formats, and how you can deserialize is something that you can learn it from there. But yeah, on a high level, to keep it, little basic and not going to too much advanced concepts, this is all about API automation, how you can do the whole concept is this. You will be taking a HTTP request, you will have to point it to the particular URL where you wanted to fetch the data from, the request and the response. And the response comes out in either of the formats. It can be JSON or it can be JSON array. Okay, so as I mentioned you, the status codes are important to understand whether it's a successful or unsuccessful or whether it's a positive or negative, and based on that you will get the output and try to format it as per your need, and maybe you can utilize it throughout your workflow. Okay, so if at all we can do it for get post, you can also do it if there is any requirement in your project or in your learning. You can also expand it to different other methods as well. Okay, clear till this point? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll do a small quiz. Yeah, no. Okay, great. So from where we stopped. Okay, what is the acronym of SOAP API?
Simple Object Access Protocol.
Maybe you can put it in the chat also so that I can see your names who are responding. That will also give some idea about who are there and all, right? So nice. Okay. Simple Object Access Protocol, correct. So what are the different outputs that SOAP API can provide you? Divyansh, Raghuveer, Tushar, Kameshwar, XML. Nice. XML, correct. So what are the different outputs that a REST API can provide you with? JSON. It can provide you JSON, XML, then CSV. Yeah, correct. Nice. Then if at all you're concerned about the information that's confidential throughout your API, then which APIs you would prefer, SOAP or REST? Yeah, because SOAP API is providing the confidentiality by keeping the information secure. Perfect. Nice. So if at all you wanted to use or explore the APIs, public APIs, which site you refer to? I mean, it's just a silly question, but yeah, just wanted to know whether you are attentive or not. Postman is just for testing APIs, but to fetch the APIs, you'll go for requests. Okay, requests. So what are the different methods that we have? HTTP methods. Get, Sandhya. I'm love to see all these responses that are going super quick. It's just keeping me so happy. Nice. Nice. Great. So what are the different statuses of these methods? Status codes, not statuses. Status codes. Someone replied success. 201 update, 400. No, you should give what does they mean. 200 means success, like 201 means, creation is successful, something like that. What is the status code for delete? Delete. 204 is for delete, 400 is failure, 201 is for create. Nice. Perfect. Nice. Great. I actually loved the session. It's great, and everyone is super interactive. That's also something that I was expecting out of this session. And yeah, coming back to the studio concept. So which activity that supports all these packages in the API automation in UiPath Studio? Web API. Nice. Nice, great. Fine. So yeah, I have one more request for you. So I can see a lot of people like, who are active. Tejaswini, Lucky, Shivakrishna, Srijna, and Praharsha, Divyansh, sorry. So all these people, and also I have seen the participants close to 70. So I just wanted to hear what's something that you loved in this whole session. Maybe you can
Yeah,
put it up
we
here,
have
or
the feedback form also, Harika.
you have it. Okay,
Ah,
great.
yeah, we have the feedback form. Let's wait.
Nice. And also one more thing is, maybe if you guys are already there on the LinkedIn, I want you guys to make some noise over there, because after all, we all been so productive throughout, the session and also on the weekend, right? That's something an extra. So I want you guys to put up something that we have worked on or we have learned on in this session. So, and also tag me. You can tag Edkonlu also over there. So that will give you good exposure to everyone. Right. So nice. I would love to see your responses in LinkedIn as well. So I will also try to connect with you. Maybe you can send a response for me over there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Divyansh. Your teaching, your explanation is so good. Good explanation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So you can put up your words also there in the LinkedIn. We'll try to make some noise, right? Practical example is heart of the session. Your voice makes me to listen. Thank you so much. But Kumar, I have a bad throat today. I was blessed to hear this from you because I was not feeling well. Okay, great. So guys, that's all from my side. If at all,
Thank you so much, Harika. Thank you very much. Because even if your health, if you are not feeling well, also you come to the meeting and you attend, you give your best and you read the things well for our learners from the RPO zone. That's a thank you so much from the RPO zone. And meanwhile, also we can go continue with this API automation series because the interaction, the learners are so many people are there, so much interaction is there, and it
yes.
is well, very well, and it's very succeed also. And guys, don't miss out the give the feedback because it will help the us to do more like this. Okay, other than sending the direct messages, you can visit the that I already shared the link in the chat, rpozone/webinars feedback. Okay, you can visit it and you can give your feedback and you can give your suggestion to us. And same, definitely we will come with the another part 2 of the API automation with the same Harika. We will plan it also. And you can keep post in the LinkedIn also by tagging the RPA zone and the Harika. Okay, it will also help the Harika to do more like this with you guys. Still, if you are not in our WhatsApp group, also I'm going to share my WhatsApp group, RPO Zone Community WhatsApp group. There you can have the so many webinars like this we are going to conduct, and it will help you all the people. Okay, I'm pasting in the chat that one also. Okay, you can join in our WhatsApp group and you can keep updated on our website www.rpozone.in. Once after completion of this webinar, we are going to update our recorded video in RPO Zone website. Okay, great to see you that in this Sunday also you have given your valuable time and you have learned something new, and it will help your career growth. If you are a fresher, if it will help you to get the job or something. If you are already doing the job, it will help you in your projects. Still, if you have any questions, you can ask in the unmute yourself and you can ask either if you want to give the any suggestion to the RPO zone, you can give your suggestions. That is also acceptable from our side. It's a people's community. You can take any suggestions from our side.